horses and hounds and hunters drew nearer. Lucas could feel the vibrations from the pounding hooves beneath his feet, and his ears ached from listening to the dogs trailing his scent. He imagined their bared teeth, their panting breath. The image made his knees weak with fear. He was the lone witness to what the hunters had done. They would not let him live if they caught him. He ran faster. Lucas spotted the creek, barely visible through a stand of alders, and stopped to catch his breath. The soft neigh of a horse, followed by a rustling in the brush, caught the hair on the back of Lucas's neck to stand tall. Halting cautiously, he squinted into the dense wood. No one was in sight, and he breathed easier. He crouched low in a thicket of ferns, then moved silently toward the water, gingerly making his way across its moss-covered stones. His gaze skimmed the brush for the presence he'd felt earlier, but again he saw no one. Lucas pushed off from a rock, half swimming, half crawling over the slick and muddy creek bottom. He slowly made his way upstream. The current was swift in some places, so he figured the men would suppose he'd headed downstream because it was safer and easier. Behind him, the hunting dogs were howling at the water's edge, yipping, crying, braying, digging, snorting where they'd lost his scent. But Lucas, now beyond a deep bend in the creek bed, did not stop, figuring it wouldn't be long until the hunters reckoned his direction. He'd just reached a small waterfall beyond another bend when he heard a rider coming through the brush directly ahead. His heart caught in his throat. He couldn't return downstream. The brush on the far side of the creek was too sparse for hiding. He was trapped. As he considered his plight, a tall black horse broke into the clearing and halted abruptly in a patch of late afternoon sunlight. It struck the burly rider across the face, making his dark hair gleam, and his ice-blue eyes looked startlingly pale against his swarthy skin. The rider didn't seem at all surprised to see Lucas. The boy stood, water streaming from his clothes. Around him the shin-high water bubbled and swirled. He felt like crying, but kept himself from it, thinking how ashamed his pa would be if he even let one tear fall. Biting his lip, he mutely acknowledged the man with a nod.
"Lucas," the man said gently, "you did right by coming this way. I hoped you'd pick the creek."
Lucas tried to keep the tremble out of his voice. "You been the one watching me?"
"Yes, son, I've never been far. I was just waiting until you put more distance between you and the posse."
The boy waded through the water to the creek bank.
"They're still coming, Brother Steele."
The cool air struck his wet clothes and his thin body, and he shivered.
"Well, you lost 'em, but at least for now, boy. You did it better than most men I know."
In spite of what he had been through, Lucas felt proud. "You know, then, what's happened?"
"Yes, son, I know,"
John Steele said, his voice grim.
"I know."
The hounds bawled again from someplace downstream. Steele narrowed his eyes, squinting in that direction. Still astride his mount, he removed his wool coat and tossed it to Lucas.
"Here, you put this on and climb on up. We gotta get out of here."
Lucas slipped his arms into the sleeves, reached up to take Steele's big, callous hand, then swung onto the horse behind the saddle. A few minutes later, as the black mare carried them deep into the woods, the boy leaned his cheek against Steele's broad back. Before long, dusk settled around them like a shroud, and fog laced among the alders and pines and oak, dripping a heavy mist from the branches. The woods seemed filled with the smell of damp, loamy soil and decaying leaves. The mare thundered along the trace for hours, it seemed to Lucas. He clung to John Steele, his arms circling the man, afraid to let go. At last, Steele halted the horse in front of a log house, and Lucas rubbed his sleepy eyes with the back of his fists. Several horses were tied to hitching posts, and the glow of lantern light spilled through the windows out into the darkness. John Steele dismounted, then reached up to take the boy from the horse. The big man strode to the house, Lucas in his arms. He didn't stop until he reached a worn horsehair chair near the fireplace. After he'd kicked the chair closer to the